Greetings, family. Welcome to the Grand Rising Collective. My name is Kyle Dixon, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for 20 years. Grand Rising Collective's here is to cultivate greatness in ourselves and our community.
And my name is Kayode Bentley, co-host, educator, and entrepreneur for over 20 plus years. My contribution to Grand Rising Collective is to help cultivate that greatness in ourselves and the community through impactful discussions, seminars, and webinars with my co-host, Kyle Dixon.
I would love to be in the situation where every college in the country is bidding for my son. That's a position of power.
Yes, it is.
Like, who's gonna make the best offer? Now we're talking about Morehouse, Morehouse for $5,000 a year, Harvard for zero, Princeton for 10, right? All right, Princeton, you lose. right? Like, you out. Right? So
Yeah.
Duke for $2,000 a year, but a spot on the Duke for $20,000 a year, but a spot on the basketball team. Right? Now it's getting complicated, right? It's like, oh, Morehouse for free, a spot on Duke's basketball team. It's like, oh, right? Like, so, ideally, we're in a position of power where we get to line up these offers and make some choices. Now, in truth, there's not a whole lot of chance of like those beautiful offers being the one in front of us, right? Usually, we're making choices of school X for $30,000, school Y for $36,000.
Yeah.
Right? So, the goal is to do all you can to increase your opportunities, to do all you can to increase your options. I'd rather my son be offered admission to 5 colleges and choose not to go than not be able to go to college.
So in regards to options, Akil, this is what we're dealing with in regards to reality, right? We're not in a position of power as, African Americans, Black in this country. With that, and I want to go back real quick to a point that you made. So let me get this straight. Affirmative action was really helping the top % of minorities get into college, not everybody. Is that correct?
So affirmative action was only employed, so consideration of race, let's say that differently, right? Because technically speaking, affirmative action in which universities were looking at fulfilling quotas and holding seats and things like that hasn't been practiced since, I want to say 1968, something like that. It's been damn near my entire lifetime that hasn't been the case. So when people talk about it like a checkbox making a difference, that's not what's happening. That's not what has been happening. That's not what has been legal. It's been race-conscious admissions, which is, if they're looking at many factors, that is one of the factors that institutions are looking at when they're shaping their class. Okay, so let's start there. Let's also say there are 9 states that last year also banned race-conscious admissions, California being one of them. So, and then let's add to that, most colleges in this country accept most of their applicants, full stop. There are about, and when I say college, let me be clear. When I say college, I mean nonprofit institutions that award a bachelor's degree. So I'm not specifically thinking about community colleges, because generally community colleges are open access.
Yes.
All you gotta do is pay the bill. So when I say college, I know I'm using that as a shorthand for about the 2,300 institutions of higher education that award at least a bachelor's degree.
Okay. That's
okay.
Good.
Which is important because there are places that only do graduate degrees. That are colleges. There are community colleges that only give associate's degrees.
Okay.
Right? That's not part of this conversation at all. Right? So of those 2,300 or so colleges, about 200 of them admit less than half of all their applicants. About 60 admit less than 25% of all their applicants.
Mhm.
So think about that, right? There are very few places that have the luxury to quibble about the race. Most of these places are like, you got the grades, you finished 12th grade, let's do 13th grade.
Okay.
That's what, like, so the notion of you can't get into college is BS.
Okay.
You can't get into a small subset of highly rejective colleges.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So the decision largely only applies to that small subset of highly rejective colleges.
Okay.
Until the pandemic, CUNY had a grid on their website that said, these test scores and these GPA, find out where yours meet up. If you fall in one of those boxes, you're in.
Okay.
CUNY ain't considering race.
Okay.
Right? Or they weren't. They're still not. Most places did not consider race. Right? But what we're talking about here, what this case impacts, is access to prestige, perceived elitism, access to the country club.
Right.
And I say it pejoratively because I struggle with it, right? Does getting on a country club and playing golf with the dude do anything for you?
Mm-hmm.
Your face says it all. Your face says it all. Like, you're like, maybe, kind of, sort of, I don't know, but maybe, like, exactly, right? Like, right? I want to say no. I really want the answer to be no.
Yeah.
I know I can't say no. I really want the answer to be no.
I feel that.
Because
totally
it's who
feel
you
that.
know is not. What's that
the same
cliche?
way.
Hey, Kyle, I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead, brother.
No, I was gonna say that cliche where I was taught growing up is not necessarily what you know, but who you know. That's why fraternities is so, you know what I mean, such a big thing, because you got that connection as opposed to, you know what I mean?
Right. And that raises a lot of interesting questions, right? Again, I think that, like, Black folks in this country are in a particularly tough spot because we got all the things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Any problem that any other race can tell you about, we likely have to deal with that too. And then some.
And then some.
Right. So when you say fraternities, right, that's an interesting thing to me. Like, would being a Q from Morehouse have more value in getting a job than a Harvard degree?
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
That's a real question.
Well, wouldn't that depend on where you're going to work? Like where you...
So now we back to it depends. so that's the whole conversation, right? It's like, it depends, it depends, it depends. It depends.
Yeah.
And again, I would like those choices in front of me.
Exactly.
Right? Like, that's where you make some decisions. And that's like, if you have those choices and they're all equal, it might be, you might have to make some decisions depending on what you want out of your future. If I'm going to Wall Street, Morehouse is a great pathway to Wall Street. Right? So is Harvard. Right? So, but if I want to be a teacher, then I'm probably going to minimize my debt no matter what. Because teachers generally don't make the same as Wall Street. So I might go to Fisk over Morehouse. You're talking about Fisk at 12 grand. Morehouse ain't 12 grand.
Right.
If I'm looking to be a teacher, I'm going to Fisk, not Morehouse, because you know what? I will get a solid education in teaching without the debt, probably. And I say probably because I don't know what Morehouse is going to offer me until I actually apply.
Right.
So I think one of the problems is, like, you can't take options off the table yourself. Right? Choosing not to apply to Morehouse because you think it might be expensive is not smart. Right? That's like not going into the car dealership because you think they're not going to give you the deal.
Right.
Why not go in and let them tell you no?
Let them tell you. Let them tell you no. No, because we suffer from that fear. I suffered from it to a degree. Is that we're so used to being rejected as a people, or falling under the pretense that we will be rejected based off the literature, based off of what elders tell us, based on what community tell us, TVs, movies, all that. So we like, I'm tired of hearing no. So I just rather take myself out than hearing somebody else tell me no again. And it's like, that's so self-defeating. It's so I'd rather have that option, you telling me no, than me thinking you're gonna tell me no. Because but here's the thing too. I will say this, Akil, on top of that, is that I know there are other options, and I have faith and belief that there are other options.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Kyle, and the killers for you. What I've noticed from inner city youth, it's gotten even to a point where these young people are afraid of success. They've internalized defeat and rejection so much that they don't even know what success looks like, what it feels like. It's an abstract to them. So they won't even try, because anything that resembles some sort of success, they refute.
I would spin that slightly differently.
Let's go.
Right. I think that one of the challenges of growing up, one of the challenges when you say inner city youth, when you say things like that, right? Like, and you know, we use a lot of that language as proxies, right?
Yeah.
For growing up poor in impoverished communities without a ton of visible options, right? So if you've been fed all your life that this isn't for you, why would you go for it?
Mm.
If you've been fed all your life that college is expensive, why would you put your family into that? Why would I apply to college if all I've been told is you're going to end up with $100,000 in debt?
Right.
Right. So I think part of it is we have to disabuse students of false notions and make our families more informed consumers of the educational space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, notice I'm not giving you a whole lot of answers here.
Right.
Right? I ain't got a whole lot of answers. I have a ton of questions and a ton of thoughts, and I poke holes in a lot of narratives that to me are overly simplistic, right? That are creating perceptions of exclusion and, you know, a lot of the magical thinking, right? Going to Harvard isn't a shield against racism. It's just not. It has value. It has value as a degree. It has value as a brand. It has value as lots of things, right? But that doesn't mean it's going to make you a success in a society that is valuing other things or measuring other things in a different way. So I think that we have to. Go ahead.
So with that said, Akil, should we be, as a culture, investing our time, energy, and resources into applying to these prestigious colleges such as Harvard or Yale's, or should we be investing our energy and time into HBCUs to get them to a level where they have that type of established brand and recognition?
Why is it either or? Applying means nothing.
That's what counts.
Applying means nothing, right? Like, apply to all the places. Why not? Apply to all the places.
Yeah.
Let them make the offer. Apply to all the places. Let's say that better. Apply to all the places you want to go to.
There you go.
That's the harder part, right? That's the hardest part is figuring out, where do I want to go?
Oh.
Where will I get the things I want
out of that experience?
Out of it, right?
Yeah.
Right. If I want to have an internship overseas, not every college offers that. That's so right. That will change where I apply. Mm-hmm. Right. If I want to have an internship on Wall Street, right? Well, some places have stronger programs designed to do that than others. Some places don't have business majors, right? So I think the more important question is, what do I want after high school, and what's going to help me get there? Right? And that's the consideration that starts to shape what that next step is. Where do you apply next? which places do you apply to, right? And also cost shouldn't really drive applications, because unfortunately, the way this system is laid out, you don't know cost until after you've applied and been accepted, right? The sticker prices they put out there are all estimates.
That's important to know. That's important to know. That's
Um,
important to know. And let me say this, Akil, real quick before Patty goes into one of my good friends. We just talked about it because his daughter's in her second year of college. She applied to a college in Florida. They live in Tennessee. She applied to a college in Florida because she wanted to study marine biology. So he was like, well, this is a college for her because she really wants to do that. Now she's overseas. He just told me now she's doing it overseas overseas semester in Europe because her college offered that. And he said, we chose this college specifically because she wanted to study marine biology. So we chose it in Florida. And they also had a exchange program, overseas program that she's taking advantage of now. She's loving it. She's loving it. It's not a big name school. I forget the name, but it's not a big name school. But they took time to choose the right fit for her. And it's the right fit. And it's not crazy expensive. It's not crazy cheap, but it's affordable for them.
so to that point, Cal and Akil, I like because Cal knows solutions, right? Tangible solutions. We have parents who are raising these children from the inner cities, poor kids, right? Like that false narrative. And they're enrolled in these public schools. I can't tell you how many students I talk to and I ask about schools and they talk about how the schools are failing them, how the teachers don't care about them, how the teachers are there just for a check. It's just passing them along as far as numbers so they can get their budget for next year. If and you also brought up a kill about why should it be either or. So from what I'm seeing, these options and opportunities do exist. They're out there. All we have to do is go for it, right? Let them tell us no. But if we can't get past, and when I say we, I'm talking about us as a culture, can't get past our own mental block or our own self-defeatism, then those options and opportunities might as well not exist because we're not even applying for them. We're not even putting ourselves in those positions to take advantage of them. So my question to you, Akil, since you deal with the SAT scores and what I've heard about SATs, they're biased anyway. So a lot of black poor kids can't even they can't even conceptualize the questions because it's so abstract from their existence, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because there was a study and articles done on that. I guess my question is tailored towards parents and youth in and of themselves. What solutions or what guidance can we give these parents to help them if the education system isn't even helping their children break these barriers mentally?
There's a lot of different things you threw there that are
I know, I do that sometimes.
interesting. No, that's good.
Yeah.
See if I can answer it in a succinct way. It's hard, right? Let's just start with that. It's hard.
Yes.
Right. I think that you have to do the best you can to push forward and above and beyond what's in front of you. So the school system, I don't think is designed to do most of what you just said. Like that's not their job. That's just not their job, right? This like it's always interesting to me because like for the longest time, the job of a high school was to graduate kids from high school, which is not the same as getting kids into college. That's not the same thing. That's why lots of high schools don't have college counselors, right? Because like their job is to get you out of high school. And it was on the parents to decide whether going on to college was the next thing. So if you're suddenly asking a high school to get you into college and it's not their job, and then you're saying, well, y'all didn't do it, but like, yeah, but it wasn't my job. Right. So I think we have to keep in mind what we expect school to do. Right. School is there. School is set up to teach information and skills. Right. And since the 80s, it's been harder and harder for schools to even do that. with schools being underfunded, teachers being underpaid, class sizes being ginormous. Like, how is my child going to get any attention? You're in a class of 40 kids, right? So as a parent, you have to navigate the options available to you to try to create the best situation for your family, and and recognize that a lot of these things you're going to have to supplement yourself. Or let me say that better. Your job as a parent is to raise a good person, right? Your job as a parent is to raise an informed, thoughtful citizen. Your job as a parent is to create opportunities for your child and help them view the world as a series of opportunities that they have to figure out which ones they want to go after, which ones they want to capture, recognize that they're not going to get them all. They're going to hopefully capture something that's good, but a lot of them they're not, because you can't get all the things, right? So my job as a parent is to help my child strive for more, right? Different resources along the way will help me do that. School might be one of them, right? Friends and family might be another one. Nonprofit organizations might be a different one, right? So I'm going to cobble together the resources that I have with the resources that are available to me to help develop my child's abilities, skills, knowledge, goodness, well, all those things, right? So I think we have to, so I think we have to be careful about ascribing blame to who did what to who, right? Like, in the long run, it's my job to make sure that I do all I can to navigate the society that I live in. Right. So to me, that's kind of how it is. Like, hey, I don't expect math class to teach my kid how to play the guitar. If I have a cool teacher, they might actually connect math and guitar, right? But I don't really expect it. And if they do it, cool, thank you very much. But that's not what I'm doing, right? Like, if I want my kid to play the guitar, I want my kid to play the piano, I'm going to find them a piano teacher.
Yeah.
Because that's not something I can do.
Right.
Like I told y'all earlier, I am not particularly musically inclined. I can tell you what I like and what I don't like, but that's about the end of it, right? So I have to figure out what I need to supplement and what I have the skills to do.
So Akil, what then? You broke generational years of programming with that statement right there. Because what I was taught to believe growing up is that high school was supposed to prepare you for college, and you had a choice whether you wanted to go to college or not and go to the career route. But I was always taught right after high school, that's the script, college,
Well,
and it was assumed.
We grew up in the college for all period.
Yes, same here.
Right. We grew up in kind of that college for all period that came out of like the 80s, 90s. That's where they really started talking this business of everybody goes to college.
Yeah.
Right. But still only about 30-40% of Americans have a college degree. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody doesn't go to college.
Yeah.
like that is just not true.
That's real. That's even real quick. Even with my mother, and my father, even my mom talked to me about her going to college. She went to college in the late '60s, early '70s. Her guidance counselor was like, "I don't think you're college material." I mean, she telling me this, and she went on to get her master's. You know what I'm saying? But like Akil is saying, it was right. We came through the era of the propaganda was college for everybody. Yes, indeed.
Has there been any Go ahead, Akil. You about to say something?
I think that right, like, and even though that narrative exists, it was never like legit, right? We still have college prep high schools. What that mean?
Right.
And if there are college prep high schools, what about the other ones?
Other ones that don't, right? That's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, the ones who say they're college preparatory, then what about the one who? Yes, indeed.
And some of them, it's just branding, right? But it's branding that reflects a level of truth. So I think what we have to think about is, what do we want to push our kids towards?
This is a landmine, man. No, it is, because we're talking about college. Like, all right, if we're talking about college, we're talking about for a subset of like our demographic, like 30 to 40%. I mean, that's the one of the essence of objectives, right? What are we trying to accomplish here? What is the problem? Huh?
Like you said, Kayode, what are we trying to accomplish? What is the goal? Because if we only have, like you said, a certain amount of people, not even over 50% of people, not even in college, then what are we choosing as a nation? What are we choosing as a society that is substantial to us growing and developing? And like, what are we doing this for? Like, what is the purpose of having this many people go to college where this many people don't and are still successful, or people who don't go to college and they struggle? Like, what are we doing? What are we creating?
And
right, like,
yeah, and part of
a lot as an educator. What is my purpose in the classroom? You know, when I step in this classroom to teach, to instruct my students, what is my purpose as an educator? What do I want them to get out of the experience? And I tell them this every semester. I share, here's my point in being here. Here's what my goals are for you now. And I also ask them, what are your expectations of being here with me in this classroom, in this instruction? What is it? Because you have your own expectations, and I want to see if they align with mine. And if they don't, that's okay too. But let's talk about it. Let's discuss it.
I think also it's weird to me to have college prep high schools, because shouldn't everyone have certain level of mathematical ability, reading skills, writing skills? What you do with those skills, we can have a different conversation there.
Right.
But I want for everyone a certain level of ability, right? A certain amount of critical thinking skills, right? Of data analysis skills, because I don't want people to sit at home watching a TV ad and buying the hoopla that our advertising people are putting in front of you. Right, the numbers that they playing with, like, all that kind of nonsense, right? Like, so I think that there should be a, I hate the term critical thinking, a lot of the terms they use in education, because they tend to lose meaning, right? But I think that there's a level of critical thinking and a level of reading and writing skills that kind of everybody needs. I sort of, like, New York Times is written at a 10th grade level.
Yes.
It's always fascinating to me when they start talking about reading comprehension, and it's like, oh my God, he's not reading on grade level. He's an 11th grader not reading on grade level. I mean, so he can read the New York Times just fine and understand it. I don't know, so like, what's the level? Like, and so a lot of times these terms aren't defined, right? Whereas if you're saying there's a 12th grader who, and they say illiterate, and they talk about 12th graders being literate. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's a thing, right? Now, can't answer standardized test questions equivalent to others in their grade. That's usually what they mean.
Yes.
Okay. Which, I don't know that I have a problem with that. If it, like, one, what does that actually mean? Right? Like, does that just mean you're bad at the test, or does that mean you can't read? If it means you can't read, then we got problems. If it means you're bad at the test, then I don't care.
Right.
Right? Because I know people who, you put them under the clock and they're just gonna make a ton of mistakes, and it's reflecting mistakes under pressure rather than ability.
Right. Ability.
Again, I love basketball, and I'm an old head, so I don't know if y'all remember Nick Anderson.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Remember when Jordan ruined his career? Jordan broke him. They were in the playoffs. He was at the free throw line. Jordan walked past him and said something to him, and he missed 2 free throws in the playoffs to win the series. He was never the same.
Never, man.
His shooting percentage went down, right? Like, so are y'all gonna tell me he's a bad basketball player? Ben Simmons. People trying to say he's a bad basketball player. No, he's not. He's a dude that's struggling.
Yeah.
It's not basketball ability. He is struggling on other things.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But then they're going to say first of all, he's still among the 300 players in the NBA.
Yes, he is.
If I'm the worst in the NBA, you're doing all right.
Yeah. Talk about elitism, real.
It's like, okay. Now, if you say he's the worst NBA player, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm not going, like, you may want to say that, right? Like, he's an overpaid player. You could say all those other words. But bad basketball player ain't the words, right? So I think that we do that a lot with words. We make them meaningless. And I think that one of the things that helps us that we need to do better as a society, as parents, as whatever, is to be more clear and meaningful in what we're saying, what we mean, and what we're trying to get out of it, right? That's a bad student because they have a 3.3 GPA or, whatever. Like, that's not true, right? Now, he might not be admissible to college X, but that doesn't make him a bad student.
Right.
Right? That's
right.
Because there's a limit. Like, we're talking about finite resources, right? There are a limited number of spots at that college. They get to pick. They might pick the kid with more money, which is a criteria I'm not a fan of. Right? But that doesn't make you a bad student. It just makes you a student that place chose not to select.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times one of the things we have to help our children, our students understand is those things are different.
For parents, I use the term inner city, but poor kids that that we deal with, that I teach and mentor. Here's the question that I would like your feedback on. If high school, right, wasn't designed to help its students migrate to college, 13th grade, then there's a conflicting message out here that I've been indoctrinated and programmed with, which says that to get a job in today's society, you need at least a bachelor's, or now it seems a master's degree. Mm-hmm. So if I listen to that message, I'm saying, okay, if college isn't designed to get me, if high school isn't designed to get me into college, and it's my parents' responsibility to find these resources to help me develop in this area per se, to help me get into college, since that's not the high school's job to do. But yet society is telling me in order for me to get a job, I need at least a bachelor's or master's degree. Help me clear up that confusion.
So I think you're combining a couple of different things there.
Okay.
Right. So let's clean up a little bit of that, right?
Yes.
High school's job is to graduate you from high school. Let's just start there, right? Like that's the fullestness of their job.
Okay.
Part of graduating you from high school should also help you get ready for the next step. Mm-hmm. Right? If you're going to go into college, you probably need to know how to do algebra. High schools have taken on the role of teaching you algebra. Most high schools don't teach calculus. So if I'm at a high school that doesn't teach calculus, right? It wasn't their job to teach calculus. That's not part of the high school curriculum, except some places have added it on, right? Some places have added on music. Some places have added on shop. Some places have added on metalworking, right? So those aren't part of the state curriculum. So part of the responsibility of a parent and I'm struggling trying to say, like, I don't know if it's the parent's responsibility, right? But there is a shared responsibility, let's say, between the state agencies that tell high schools what to teach, the parent that makes the choice of which high school they send their child to, right? And all of those other things. There's a shared responsibility of what do we want the children to know when they're finished high school? And who is going to help the child take the next step, whatever that step may be, right? So high schools used to be, let's say back in the 60s, right? It was get you out of high school, ready for a job at the factory, on the desk, whatever, right? And then the narrative became get you into college, right? But the curriculum of the high schools didn't fully shift to a curriculum that will align with all colleges, because you can't, right? Only about 17% of high schools offer calculus. So that means only about 17% of high schools will prepare you to get into Caltech and MIT, which basically require calculus, right? So there's a misalignment if you're looking at those places. But if you're looking at the vast majority of colleges, there's not a misalignment, right? So I think part of it is what you're trying to do next. If I wanted to be a metal worker, almost no high school prepares me for that. Ain't teaching shop class anymore, right? So it's a question of like, what do you want to do, right? If you want to be a metal worker, maybe I go to, I don't know, aviation high school. I think they probably do that. Aviation high school in New York City, they got a jet engine in one of their rooms.
Wow.
Right. I'm like, that's cool.
Wow.
That's cool. So I want to be a jet mechanic. I'm probably going to aviation high school. I got a jet. Only place I've ever seen like a full on, I think it's like a 747 engine or something crazy like that. They have a shop and a jet engine in there. Like yes. So I think we have to recognize that there are pieces of the next step after high school that some high schools are ready to address, other high schools aren't. It depends on what you're thinking of that next step as, and whether the high school is equipped to help you with that, what pieces of it they're equipped to help the student with, what pieces they're not, right? Most high schools are equipped to help them broadly academically, maybe not narrowly academically. When I think narrowly, I'm thinking like specific things like calculus, right? But broadly, math, sure. Maybe not this math, right? So I think that becomes the challenge. Then there's also procedurally, are they ready to help me with that, right? There are steps you have to take to apply to college that aren't part of high school curriculum. What application do you file? What are the deadlines? What tests? What this? What that? Like, that's not part of high school curriculum. There might be a staff member there to help. There might not. There might not be a college counselor on staff. There are counselors. Some of them will help with college, but they're not necessarily college counselors, right? That becomes more and more important as you start to look at hyper rejective places, at the hoity-toity places, because they tend to admit a narrower profile of student, right? But lots of kids are getting into college without a college counselor, right? And often they're applying to their local public college, which is not a loss by any stretch, right? But if you're in New York, hearing about HBCUs is not like many high schools might not talk about HBCUs.
No, they don't. Yes.
There are no HBCUs in New York City. There are no HBCUs in New York State, right? So you have to. So then to learn about an HBCU when you're in a state where there's no HBCU within, I don't know, 400 miles, right? Like, think about just all the things that have to go into that. And I don't know if that's true. There's Lincoln in Pennsylvania. I'm not sure if that's what.
Cheney. I was gonna say Cheney.
Right, there's Cheney. So I'm not sure about the mileage, actually, right?
Okay. That's good.
There is a radius in which there is no HBCU, right? And that means the student has to be willing to go beyond that radius. The counselor has to have knowledge beyond that radius. There's a lot of things that have to play into that.
Very true. Very, very true.
Right? And we also don't even do radiuses. We tend to do state borders. So there's all of that playing in, right? New York State Department of Education isn't set up to go, hey, let me teach you about Pennsylvania. They're going to teach you about New York State colleges.
Right.
So there has to be some supplement from outside forces to broaden our viewpoint, because that's not what the system was designed for, right? And then now, so we got all of that part on the high school side, and what are the responsibilities of the high school? Well, there's a lot of responsibility there, and the family's got to do their piece, right? And then there's also the go to college narrative, which has been a narrative that has been pushed for a while. Michelle Obama and was it Jay Farrell did that whole video, go to college, right? So there's the encouragement of everyone to go to college. And what you said was to get a job, which is wrong. There are lots of jobs that don't need college degrees. So you're not going to college to get a job. You're going to college to get access to a particular subset of jobs. Maybe it's more high-paying jobs. which means somebody's going to turn that into go to college to get a good job.
Yep.
But what's a good job? Because I know what I just paid my plumber, and that sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, hey, hey, hey.
So if you want to be a plumber, you don't need a college degree. Right? But if you want to be, I don't know, the Secretary of Education, you probably do.
So a plumber, Akil, real quick, a plumber is like a trade school. Are you talking like trade schools, if anything like that? Or
good
something like
question. I don't know how one becomes a plumber.
Yeah.
I want to agree with trade school, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
It could just be you go apprentice under a plumber.
Yeah, apprenticeship, yeah.
And then get accepted to the union because you put in enough hours. I have no idea.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Plumbers got skills that I don't have. I once changed a faucet in my house, and I was so proud of myself. And my wife in the background just screamed once.
Gotcha.
So part of this yes, in 20 odd years of having this house, I did it once.
Yeah, what? I got one. You know what I'm saying? Salute.
So you have to, part of the job is to help create opportunities, to help figure out what the children are interested in, right? To give them access to things. They say they like music, get them a music teacher, right? They say they like dance, get them in a dance class, send them down to the nonprofit to Harlem School of the Arts, right? They got dance classes. You can do some dance, right? So like giving them access because school likely doesn't have dance class. So I have a child who's interested in dance. I can't count on their elementary school to do that. Right. So that's part of this whole thing is creating opportunities, right? And recognizing some of these narratives are overblown. Right. But again, if we're saying college gives me access to the highest paying jobs, then don't I want to send my kid to college?
Very good.
Right. So then that's the question, right? Like if that's giving me access to the highest paying jobs, I kind of want that for my kid. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to discourage them. I'm going to encourage them to pursue that. I also look at it in terms of shooting for the moon. If you fall short, you're among the stars. Right. If I tell you don't leave this country, this planet, this earth, then like you ain't coming close to none of that. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's okay to fall short. Right. But we want good landing spots. We want good opportunities, even if it isn't the moonshot.
Thank you, brother.
Because it will benefit you anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As long as you don't kill yourself getting there, right? As long as you ain't incurring $100,000 in debt, $300,000 in debt, something you can't manage.
Right. What price are you willing to pay? Like you said before.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And like Akil said, like you're saying, Akil, you're saying the options as well. It's like, America has this kind of ethos of all or nothing. And sometimes that you end up with nothing.
Right.
Even though you did gain something, but the risk wasn't worth the reward. And it's just like, well, y'all told me to go for it. But yeah, we told you to go for it, but don't throw everything to the wind and just be like, well, be critical thinking. Again, critical thinking, be mindful of the things. And also what you don't know. Like, I think that's, hence what you're saying, like, how do you know that you don't know? But if you don't know and you don't know, get around people who do know.
Right.
Get an environment.
Right. Find out what you can and cannot do, what you do want, what you want to know how to do, what you don't know how to do, what opportunities are created, who has the job that I want, and what do I need to get there?
Mm-hmm. Yo, brother, thank you. Mm. He answered my question, Cal. I got some gems from Cal today.
Yeah. Yo, brother, look, family, look. Brother Akil, thank you, man.
Thank you.
We appreciate you, man.
Listen, we have questions. We didn't even scratch the surface, Akil. We still have more questions on the list we didn't even touch on. I just thought it was good. This was a good intro, Kyle, right? For us to set what's that baseline, right? To establish a foundation, and then we can build from here. And then we're gonna have a part 2 and ask these, more, how can I say, generic questions for you, Akil? But I think this was good. You really cleared up some confusion.
My pleasure. It was fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely fun. No, you answered a lot of my questions as far as just like scenarios, because these are real scenarios, having these options. And again, I went to HBCU. I'm biased. I'll tell you, family, I'm straight up biased on HBCUs. But living here in New York City allowed me to see a different perspective. Like you said, when there's no HBCUs around, who is here to promote that? It will take somebody outside of that, or who has went to a HBCU, to say, there's HBCUs. Oh, really? What's that?
Right.
Like, it takes that. I grew up around it. I grew up down south mainly, and I was 10 minutes from Tennessee State, Fisk, Meharry, American Baptist College. I grew up in it, so it was natural for me. But
yeah, I went to a HBCU. I didn't know it. So I went to high school in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And I did my first year at UVI.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't an HBCU. It was the college up the street.
You got right.
It was just the college that was on the island. Of course, everybody was black there because it was also my best year of college. I transferred twice, and I think that was my best year of college. Wow. So looking back, I probably wouldn't have transferred. But hindsight is 2020 and all. Right. And I just think the entire experience, the friends I made, I also lived on campus, which is different from commuting, right? But the entire experience, the friends I made, the environment was unmatched anywhere else I went.
It's funny. I'm sorry. It's funny you mentioned it, because I was born and raised here in the city, Bronx, New York. Didn't even know about HBCUs. I didn't know HBCUs existed. And I ended up going to Alfred State College because my school counselor asked me what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm a high school student. What are you talking about what I want to do? I don't know. All I could recall was that my dad did architecture. So, all right, I told the guidance counselor, well, my dad does architecture. So he said, okay, here's a school that does architecture. And what it wasn't even drawing buildings or floor plans. It was drawing machine parts. I was up there for a semester, realized, what am I doing? I was so far behind. I was so out of my element. I ended up going into computers because my mother bought me a Commodore 64. And that's how I got in Commodore 64. I'm not kidding. And then it was like, okay, I'm telling you, right? So, and then I
pieced 64. Next thing you know, you're going to tell me you had an Apple IIe.
I couldn't afford it. Oh, my God, I could give me that Commodore 64. Can you not? Y'all, can you not? And then just transfer into business administration. But I'm just saying, in regards to HBCUs, you're so correct. New York City didn't promote that, didn't let you know about any of that part of my culture. I go to a college campus where I feel isolated, or like you said, Akil and Kyle, tolerated. And eventually I had to get out of there and just forge my own way in corporate. But I just wanted to let you know, here's 3 different perspectives and experiences on higher education that we're sharing.
Yeah. And look at it, we still balling at this age. Still shooting jump shots.
All right, my friends, it's been great.
That's it.
So family, look, thank you, Brother Akil. Family, definitely check him out on Instagram. Is there any way they can check you out, Akil, before you leave?
Yeah, I'm still on Twitter until it fully dies or they start charging for it.
Oh my goodness.
I have my own website, akilbello.com, where I sometimes update information. And where else am I these days? I'm not hard to find. Akil Bello. I'm Akil Bello. That's not in Nigeria. So if you Google me, you will find things that I'm doing.
Look, family, thank you for sharing time with us. Hope you got some gems. Hope you took some notes. Hopefully you got some perspective on these things. And we appreciate Brother Akil sharing his time with me. Kayode, what you wanted to close out with?
No, that was it. Akil, thank you. I just reiterate what Kyle said. Akil, thank you so much for your valuable information. The way you deliver it is great. I think our audience and the subscribers are going to get a lot from this for you to share as well.
I appreciate you.
Absolutely. We're going to do this twice. We got get ready for a part 2.
Yeah, get ready for part 2, fam.
That's it. All right, y'all.
All right. Thank you.
All right, y'all. So, family, shout out. We out. Thank you. Grand Rise Collective in the house, in the building, and on.